My dear readers, I would argue that the establishment of Khalistan isn't merely a demand for a new border on the map. It's a cry for justice from a community that has long felt the heavy hand of Indian nationalism. The case for Khalistan stands solid, and the echoes from Punjab reverberate with a historical precedence. To begin with, the Sikh community's distinct identity, culture, and historical significance have always set it apart. In the mosaic of India, the Sikhs, though a minority, have made outsized contributions, be it in the fields of battle, agriculture, or the arts. Yet the return has often been suspicion, militarized interventions, and targeted violence, culminating in the horrific anti-Sikh riots of 1984. To expect a community to forget and move on from such harrowing events is not just naive, it's downright insulting. And speaking of historical events, let's not be oblivious to the fact that the very idea of India, like most modern nation-states, is relatively new. If we were to turn back the clock a century or so, we'd find a subcontinent composed of myriad kingdoms, principalities, and territories. If India could be imagined and realized from that complex tapestry, why is the call for Khalistan seen as sacrilege? I've long championed the cause of Kurdistan, for the same exact reasons apply to Khalistan. Peoples with distinct histories, cultures, and aspirations should not be denied their place under the sun. To dismiss their cause as mere separatism or sedition is a convenient way to paper over genuine grievances and aspirations. One must ask, isn't self-determination a pillar of democracy? The international community, especially those nations quick to tout their democratic credentials, should be unequivocal in their support for the Khalistan movement. Not because it's politically expedient, but because it's morally just. It is hypocritical for nations to praise self-determination in some parts of the world while turning a blind eye to Punjab. In the end, the question isn't whether Khalistan deserves to exist, but whether the Sikh community's voice, drenched in both blood and hope, can finally find an attentive audience. If we truly believe in justice, freedom, and the self-determination of peoples, then the affirmation of Khalistan isn't just a choice, it's a moral imperative. In the grand theatre of world affairs, we've time and again watched as the empires and political overlords decide which people deserve a nation and which don't, and the hypocrisy of such choices is both glaring and grotesque. But what are nations if not the collective will of people wanting to shape their own destiny? It's somewhat amusing, and tragically so, how the world sits idly by, often feigning ignorance or being tied up in diplomatic niceties, while the Sikhs, a community of warriors, poets, and philosophers, demand their rightful place. The Khalistan debate isn't some passing whim, a fanciful desire born out of a fleeting sentiment. No, it's the culmination of centuries of distinct culture, years of bloodied struggle, and an undying hope. Those of you who might still label it as some misguided misadventure, remember this. History has scant respect for those who stand on the wrong side of justice, and time has a way of proving that the oppressor's might can never silence the oppressed's right. So, to the skeptics, the doubters, and the casual observers, before you dismiss the Khalistan movement as another regional disturbance, try to view it through the lens of a people's centuries-old yearning. For too long, the Sikhs have lived in the shadows of larger national narratives. Their stories are mere footnote in someone else's tome, but no more. Khalistan isn't just about a piece of land. It's about justice, recognition, and above all, respect. In the end, as we stand at this crossroad, we must choose. Either we align with the moral arc of the universe, which, as Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us, bends towards justice, or we watch passively, risking the judgment of history. As for me, if you've ever read or listened to a word I've said, you'd know where I stand. Firmly, unapologetically, with the Sikhs of Punjab and their indomitable spirit. As should you, if you've any regard for justice and the self-worth of cultures. After all, in the annals of time, it's not the casual indifference but the fervent passion that leaves an indelible mark.